If you want to save money on your trading card purchases, we have a promo link over at 50cards.shop. Enter the promo code ATNIGHT to get 5% off your order. Hello everyone, welcome to V to Premium Transitions, the series where we take a deck at V, show you how to turn it into Premium without too many steps. I'm here, I'm Atlas, and this is James from Team Haam. How are you, man?
Good, how about yourself?
I'm good. So today we finally complete the Paladin trifecta, where we did golds with Richard from Nexus Core, we did shadows with Miles from Nexus Core, and then now we're completing the circle. Now, Royal Paladins have a lot of archetypes that can be used. And when originally this was coming out, I thought it was going to be Jewel Knights, because they have such a strong package in V series. And then they have, like, you know, you run Crystal Luster with what's-her-name for the restand.
Salome.
And then, about a week and a half ago, they revealed the History Collection. Yeah. Which was an updated version of Gobblade and then the Heart Thumb clone crits. We're doing Alt Mile.
Let me just say this. When I saw the History Collection reveal and I saw that they redid Gobblade and how they redid the crits, oh man, all the deck possibilities, all the deck building you can do with it. Oh man, so excited. Been testing with Alt Mile, been testing with Vanquisher, been testing with Donaldson as well. It really changes things for sure. I don't know if I'm able to say it now, but the chance to be able to be here and speak with you, Atlas, because I know you're a big Alt Mile fan as well. So I'm just really excited to be here.
Look at those abs, man. Look at those abs. How can you not be a fan?
I agree. But yeah, it's definitely the new stride does change things for sure. I do have to say I'm kind of more excited for the crits, but that's just my personal thoughts on it.
I think that's what we're excited for on Nexus and Night, especially Matt, who like, Matt's a big fan of any defensive power creep. So, like, when G Guardians came out, when Heal Guards came out, and now I think this makes a big, big step in the defensive direction where... So, for those who don't know, Heart Thumb clones were these little crit triggers that when your Strider of choice, so Alt Mile, Chronojet, Asha, Gaia, all that stuff, when it would attack, you put it in Soul, draw a card, and that Vanguard gets plus 5k. That would still work when you strode on it because it keeps the name. What they did is that they're errata-ing the old Heart Thumb clones to be when you take it on damage, you draw a card. So you get the trigger power, you draw a card, and then of course they're making it plus 10k power, 15k shield. It makes your crit trigger into a draw trigger when you take it on damage. And I think that's cool.
That's hella cool.
Yeah. I'm not going to go back and redo everything, but this is probably a good place to start. Is pick up the Heart Thumb clones. If you're doing the Striders, get 2 and 2. That sort of thing. So why don't we get into the V version of the deck?
So for V, for anyone who's been playing Alt Mile and V, the deck is pretty simple. Your goal is to be on this bad boy right here with another Alt Mile and Soul, so either a copy of him or another Alt Mile. Get a whole board of grade 2s and just swing at your opponent with 3 attacks, big numbers. And the main units that you're using in this deck that are like key cards for V would be units like Soliman, because if you ride him, you can look at top 7 and try to get that Alt Mile. Another key card in the deck is we have the great old Violinist here, that if you have no damage face up, gives all your grade 2s boost. It can intercept from the back. So that's your main goal. Really the main cards. Oh, how could I forget? Another main card in V. Your Edith, she also lets you search for Alt Mile top 7. If you can get it on your first grade 1 turn, especially if you're going second, you call her, you check top 7, you call an Alt Mile, you boost with her, and then she can bounce herself back to put Alt Mile in the Soul, immediately setting you up for your grade 3 turn with Ariel. So, and then another key thing to remember with Alt Mile, if you're not well aware of what Omal does, you have to have your damage face down to get his big effects. So you're trying to use up all your counterblast or manage how much counterblast you get to be able to have his ability active and online.
Yeah, the other thing with Suleiman is that when he attacks, he can bounce something that's not him. So if you ride him and then call the alt mile off of that, you get like it's a free swing on turn 2, and then you're like, oh cool, I'm gonna put the air mile in my hand for turn 3. Great, you're set up for
that's right.
There's your ride.
So yeah, so it's pretty straightforward, like I said. So guarding is very important for sure. Like what damage you take, what you decide to block with. There have been games where I would play alt mile and V. My opponent will clear my board and then purposely not give me a damage, so I can't rebuild the board. So I would say that is like one weakness of alt mile. That doesn't happen as often, especially with a lot of the decks that are mainly being played right now in V. They don't really clear your board. Yeah,
like Steam Maiden and Great Nature are just going to do what they do. They're not going to be like, all right, go after rear. No, screw you. I'm going for your face. Yeah,
that's exactly all face.
And then there's a small Jewel Knight package in there with Laylee and Eunice who allow you to recycle stuff that you've, called, intercepted with. It's in drop zone. Put it back in. It gets you more soul by doing that.
So I really like Laylee a lot. I really think she's like the best Jewel Knight card you can put in this deck. The second one is this grade 1 Eunice right here. Because you want to have a board of more grade 2s for Vieira, I don't really call her to the field too much. I mean, she has a really nice, when a Eunice placed over her, you can retire an opponent's rear guard in the same column as her. But if they don't have anything, you can draw an extra card. Normally, at least in my experience, when I have her on the field and I call over her, I tend to retire something. Because in V, not a lot of units run away. Only like certain clans like Aqua Force where their rear guards will run away. But for the most part, the rear guard stays. So she's mainly a retire. Definitely helps against Steam Maidens. Like if there's an annoying cat in the back row, you just say, all right, well, retire it by calling over her. So that's why I keep her in here for sure.
Yeah. Oh, and then for people who are like, well, I didn't see the rest. All the deck log codes will be in the description. So if you want to go look at the deck yourself, it's all good. So here we are in the premium list. What's new?
Oh, man. Well, so I'll just start off over here from 3s. As you can see, we still have our main aerial alt mile right here. But now, instead of the V alt mile, we're now on the OG alt mile from G era. So as me and Atlas were saying earlier, the new stride of Godblade and how they're redoing everything, you have to be on a Blue Sky Knight alt mile that doesn't give a gift in order to do the stride on Godblade and give you your 2 force markers. So that's why we run the 2 copies of this boy right here. He's the main one you want to ride first, so you can go into your Godblade, get your 2 force markers, get ready to go. And then after that, you would ride into him on your next turn and just do good old Crystal Luster stuff.
Yeah, so that way you get yet another force marker, and then with calling stuff from, using your counterblast up means that you then can put on even more pressure along with Crystal Lusters. You gotta drop 3 cards at a time to guard. It may seem weird that alt mile's at 2, but it's not that hard to search him because you have Sisylis, which was originally just a top 5 grade 3 searcher, split between the V version and the Stride Fodder, which allows you to just reveal a grade 3, get any alt mile, put it in your hand, and then discard something.
So good.
You can also reveal a Heal Guardian, and that's come in handy a lot.
For sure. For sure. And then,
so going second, where you'd be like, all right, I get a Quick Shield, reveal my Heal Guardian, get the alt mile I want, discard the Quick Shield. All right, we're ready to go for turn 3.
Yeah. Oh, I love doing that.
Love it. A word to the wise, though. So, regarding the striding into Godblade, because it's a skill that's being given to the card and not like just the mechanic of striding, you can't use Sisylis or your Stride Crit, Scent Flare Draco Kid, as the cost for that Godblade skill. You have to discard cards equaling grade 3 or a grade 3.
Correct.
So just keep that in mind, because we didn't realize that for that first week of testing with my play group, and got a little hairy after that. We're like, oh, this changes deck building a little bit.
Yeah, actually, my teammate Jesse, who likes to play Bermuda and Nugatama on the channel, he pointed that out. He said that, yeah, this is an effect. You have to do this. Like, oh, darn. All right.
Yeah.
So it became way more valuable to do that exact play you were describing earlier, to reveal one of these, get your alt mile, and then I would purposely hold on to this in the testing just so I can do the Godblade stride, because it is a grade 3.
Because even if you have to discard it, you have this card go back up. Diarung, which is this grade 2 here. So this is made for in Overdress, where it's like you discard a card and then get something with one clan, which that's everything.
Yep.
In Overdress, where things are nations and then there's some cards that are one clan, it's limited. But now you can just get whatever you want out of your drop zone. You can reuse Heal Guardians, you can get Alt Mile it, you know, if you want it, you can get a grade 1, you really need it. You get literally everything out of the drop.
Like, I've used him multiple times. I'll call him out with Aerial Divine Knight, or I've even called him out with Godblade. Excuse me. And I'll do his skill, and I'll Soul Blast 1, and I'll discard a card from my hand, like if I have too many triggers in hand, or if I have a unit like Maple in hand, I'll discard them, and then I can get whatever Royal Paladin card I do need for that moment. Usually it's a Heal Guardian I will grab. Sometimes it's a Perfect Guard. If I need another alt mile for striding purposes, I'll grab that too. This card is so versatile. I can't believe they released this in Overdress.
I know, right? Well, it makes sense in Overdress. It's like, all right, you get 4 options. In Premium, it's like, oh man. If you play any deck in Keter Sanctuary, so people who are here from the Genesis episode, from the Angel Feather episode, pick up a set of these. They're very cheap right now.
Yes, definitely agree. So the reason why, even though it's really good, you only run 1 in Alt Mile, because Alt Mile, especially this guy right here, he can superior call grade 2s from the deck and drop. So I can intercept with him, and then next turn just call him back out with Aerial. Especially when I strike Crystal Luster over Aerial. Oh, it's so good.
Oh yeah, that's real funny. There have been times where like I've gone second and like either had to misride Aerial, or just be like, okay, well I don't have time to dilly dally with Godblade and be on an 11k base. I've gone into Crystal, or go into Aerial, do Fossado, which we'll get to later, to get that second force marker. And then you still have 2 force markers, and you still set up for that for the Crystal Luster turn. Now, I forgot to bring this up during V. It's Force 1 the whole time, right? We're not doing Force 2?
Actually, for me, I do Force 2. Yeah. So I usually hit like high numbers in this deck.
Okay.
So I tend to just go into Force 2, but it is also very fair to go into Force 1 to overpower your opponent's hand. Like, either way is not a bad way to go. I think it comes down to like matchup, and also comes down to what your hand's looking like.
Right. My version of the deck, which I'll put a deck profile out at some point, that's just the premium version, is like, so did you ever watch the G anime?
Yes, sure did.
Right. So like near the end of that, Shion is just calling over his stuff like there's no tomorrow, just back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah.
So that works better with Force 1, where you can be like, all right, this is 24, and then this is 22, and then this is 36, and then that kind of thing. And then,
but because for V-Era, since you hit high numbers and they don't really multi-attack as much, I feel like that's why Force 2 has been working a bit more, especially for me. But for when you transfer to Premium and you have a deck like this, which, by the way, this deck list was kind of based off what you were working with, Atlas, the last list that I saw you playing with. Like,
the one with my tummy on the thumbnail.
Yes. Which very sexy, by the way. I loved it.
Thanks.
So with that version, and you're doing more multi attacks, then yeah, for sure, I can see you going to Force 1 more with this type of deck.
Yeah, I see like a Knight of Twin Sword, which is when boosted, counterblast color grade 2.
Yep.
Or the G version of Suleiman, the original version, allows you to discard color grade 2.
That's right. That's okay. Actually comes in does matter quite a bit. I'm surprised.
Against like Excel and Protect decks, definitely, because you're calling these
Definitely.
10Ks that get 2Ks, now they're hitting 12. So there you
And
go.
then especially if you can do that on a Crystal Luster turn. Oh,
Mhm.
but we're getting ahead of ourselves. So this grade 2 right here is one grade 2 that I've actually been testing quite a bit, and I really like her. So in V Alt Mile, there was a grade 2 that was usually used called Lamarok. His ability was you counterblast 1 to give him 10k, but so it wasn't once per turn. So you keep using his skill to use up the rest of the counterblast, so you can have all your damage face down. So when it came to Premium, I thought, that's a really good effect, but there's got to be something else where I can get more from it.
Mhm.
And I tried her out. She's a grade 2 that also came out in Overdress. And I've been trying her out, and man, that extra draw really helps.
I've never seen it, actually. I'm Googling it right now. Hammer Breaking Knight?
Yep. So you can call her out with Aerial, counterblast 1 to draw an extra card, and she gives herself 5. You can call her out in mid-battle with your multi-attack grade 2s, like the Twin Sword and the Soul Man we just said.
Okay.
Gets another counterblast for her to draw a card. There are times in the multi-attacking sequence where your opponent will hit a defensive. You go, man, if I go into another multi-attacker, it's not going to hit by itself. So I will go into her and go, well, you know what? But at least with her, I can get an extra draw, get more cards in hand to guard for next turn, and she gives herself 5, which is just enough to hit over a defensive, especially if you put a Force 1 marker.
Yeah. Oh, man, I can't believe I missed this. This was just like a random rare in Minerva Rising in DBT 08.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that changes things, and I actually you'll see me in a couple weeks with my belly exposed again.
I'm looking forward to it. Very excited. But yeah, definitely give her a try, Atlas.
I definitely will.
She's definitely good to try out. And then bringing from the V deck, we still run the 2 Lyles. Recycling grade 2s is really good.
Yeah, or it's any normal unit. So if like in my version right now, I run 1 instead of Sanctitude. I ran 1 like just PG, regular PG, which means you can put it back in deck with that. And it's the brave one. So you'd be like, all right, call it from deck, counterblast, and then bounce it, and then you have another PG in hand.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about putting that grade 1 PG in this deck, but I decided to go with the draw PGs instead. Yeah. Just because I felt the draw was definitely more needed. Yeah. And my version's not a brave type of deck. It's more of closer to the V. But definitely, like in a brave style of Alt Mile, like what Atlas is trying out, I would definitely recommend the grade 1 PG. He's solid.
Yeah, just
and he's a brave one.
That's true. You'll learn about a little card called Fides.
Oh, yes.
When that comes up. Also, I see a Maple from Thegrea is in there.
So we don't really care about this effect since this is Thegrea log, but it's that first effect. When your grade 3 or greater Vanguard is placed during the ride phase, so that includes strides, people. Because when you stride, you're placing a grade 4 Vanguard. If you don't have another copy of her on the field, you call her to rear. That's why we only run the 1. On top of, all the searching of grade 2s that Alt Mile specializes in. But she's definitely a good card to have. Except against Narukami. Maple, she gets bound every time. But for the most part, she will come out. She'll be that extra grade 2 you need for Crystal Luster. And those instances where you go, man, I only have 1 grade 2 or greater in hand. I cannot summon another one. Oh, but I have a Maple and drop, so I have my other 2 grade 2s or greater. We're ready to go with Crystal.
Okay. See, was there anything else new? Oh, Rollick. So Rollick makes another appearance as your, staple.
So my reason for putting Rollick in here, I've been talking with my teammates quite a bit about the new historical strides, and we feel that, Rollick is definitely going to have a higher importance in the meta game, because if you're going second and your opponent rides up to 3, goes into their new strides that gives them markers and everything, just 4 PGs alone or just Heal Guardians we feel is not enough. So I made room to throw in 2 more of these. So in the event my opponent does that to me, I can at least perfect guard for free.
Yeah.
Well, since I'll be at grade 2 or less.
I think in general, like Alt-Mile as a deck, your grade 1 stuff kind of doesn't matter all that much. Like it's, you know, your cards do stuff, but I think you have a lot more flexibility to play with there.
Yes.
Like grade 2s, you can also play with the thing, you know, play with the numbers a lot because pretty much everything calls a grade 2 from deck, and in Aerial Alt-Mile's case, from the drop.
Yep.
So what do you care?
Exactly.
Yeah. So Rollick once again makes an appearance. He better get reprinted in this.
I agree.
Yeah.
I hell of agree, because right now his price is crazy. I think his price on the time of recording is what, 20, 25 a piece?
Something like that. I had a playset. It's currently in my Great Nature, and everything else I've just been using proxies, unless I play in a tournament with said deck.
But if you want to replace this for something else, you could definitely like maybe bump her up an extra copy of 2. But if you have your hands on these, definitely think about running it.
Yeah. Pretty much every, you know, Sanctitude's still there. The Keter OT works pretty well in here.
Yep, definitely so. And then this is this is Belinus right here. This is the guy who's going to be redone with the Stride when the historical set comes out. So he'll still have the same effects. His trigger power will increase to 10. This will go up to 15. And then it's on they'll add a second effect where on defense, if he's checked, you get to draw.
Yeah,
I'm so excited for those. I just cannot wait. Another thing I like doing with him is I'll boost the Twin Sword Stride, get out my 2 grade 2s, and then do his skill to pump him into the soul to draw.
Nice.
Well, that's another interaction y'all can do. It's really nice.
All right, so now getting onto the G zone.
What he does is when he attacks, you can counterblast, flip over a G unit. It could be any G unit. You draw the same number of cards as the number of rear guards you have, and then you call the same number that you drew from hand to rear. Then, if you have 5 rear guards, he gets an imaginary gift force. What I really like about this is that it reminds me of Filled Feather Dragon, but as a Stride form. And I really like it because Filled Feather said you counterblast 1, soul blast 3, draw 1 for every open circle, and then you call the same number you drew. Filled Feather was a main phase, so he would help you build up the board. This guy is on attack, so you can swing with your rear guards first, then do his skill, call a new board, and then you get a marker. And then on top of that, cards like the V Sisylis or like Live Rot that say, when called from hand, do this. He triggers those because he's calling them from hand. So this card does a lot for the Royal Paladin clan. A lot. Now, I say first stride because usually after the first stride, you just want to go into Crystal Luster and hope the guard restrict stops him and kills him.
Yeah.
But definitely going for, like if I go first stride, it's usually him.
The optimal number to have is 3, where you go,
Yes.
all right, swing with the one that's unboosted. Have 2 open in the center and on the corner. Attack, draw 3, and then call 1, 2, 3. So you call over one thing.
Yep.
And then have your full field and get your marker. If you really want to be aggressive, you can do it with 4 and be like, all right, I've got him in the corners. You go 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yep.
And then like don't boost with the last one, and then that's a full standing board.
Which I've done that against Mega Colony. Since Mega Colony likes that all our units are rested, I'll call the one standing behind the Vanguard and say pass.
Oh, just to like shut off Dark Device with their Vanguard? That's pretty funny. Yeah.
And it's also good against like their newest stride they got that activates face up in the G zone. They say retire a standing rear guard. Well, I have my 1 because if I don't retire something, my Vanguard gets -10. So definitely something to keep in mind against Mega Colony, everyone. So that's that guy. And then I guess I'll do the strides and then the G guards.
Yeah. So let's cover Gobblade next because
yes,
we wouldn't shut up about him.
That's true.
Yeah.
So Gobblade, this is the boy right here.
Yeah.
Oh man, looking good on the steed. So basically, they're going to be adding the effects like right here. So his ability is that if he's in the G zone and you're on the OG alt mile, you discard cards that equal up to grade 3 or greater. You stride him over your alt mile. Since you have no gifts, you flip a copy of him, so you need at least 2 to get your 2 force markers. And then he has another effect, which is separate, that says your on-hit effect activates even if you don't hit, which is so nice, especially in a deck that, like alt mile, that likes to just keep multi-attacking. Now he's a guarantee, just swing in the battle, summon a grade 2.
Yeah, so I think that this is, people are like, they gave the list of all of the strides that are getting like a reprint in that errata. So what people are guessing is, okay, your on hits will activate no matter what, and they have that effect. We don't know for sure at the time of recording this, but we're like 90% sure it's going to be that. I don't know why they would give you a list and then be like, all right, these are all going to be different.
Right?
Yeah. But yeah, Gobblade being able to end a battle, just get a grade 2 from deck. Like a Suleiman or a Twin Sword if you have your standing thing in the back row, or whatever. It's very, very good. And then just having 2 force markers plunk is scary.
Yeah. Oh, and another thing I want to add to Gobblade, Bushro did mention that if you have your old copies of like Gobblade and Belinus, the crits, you can use those old copies and treat them like they have the new card text.
Yeah, because it's an errata, not a like reprint with the yeah.
I personally would rather get the new ones with the new text on it, so in case my opponent's like, is that how that works? Like, yes, it says it here. Because imagine going to a tournament with this old one telling your opponent, yeah, it does all this. They read the card and go, it's not on here.
Yeah. But I think it's ubiquitous enough where I think people will know. Because, like, with the changes being as like straightforward and generic as it is for the entire game, I think people will get with the program.
I hope so.
In that case, I've just been I had all the copies of the old stuff anyway. I've been testing with it.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I know some things got bought out. Specifically, the Heart Thumb clones. I think that those are gonna go quicker.
Yeah, I've tried to pick up some SP ones, like extras, recently, and yeah, they're non-existent.
Yeah, for people freaking out, like, oh, it's gonna be expected, like they're coming. Wait, just
exactly.
They'll be okay.
So that's the big boy Gobblade himself. And then another story we kept talking about was the famous, you love him, you hate him, Mr. Crystal Luster. So for those that are not aware what Crystal Luster does, while he's your Vanguard, you can flip any G unit, and he gains all the original abilities of your heart card. So he can gain all the abilities of Arrow Divine Knight alt mile, or he can, if you stride onto regular alt mile, he also gets his GB2 skill, basically.
Front row gets 5k, yay!
And then it's the main effect is the GB3 one. So if you have 3 or more grade 2 or greater units, so he includes himself, when your opponent would call from hand to Guardian Circle, they have to call 3 or more at the same time. So if they drop, say, a Perfect Guard against him, discard a card, they still have to call 2 more to the Guardian Circle because of him. And then he also, it's a blanket effect. So even when your rear guards are multi-attacking, drop 3 from hand, drop 3 from hand. The cards that get around him are G guards, the Blitz Order, PG, and and intercepts. Even though if they're big enough intercepts.
Yeah, this thing just completely shreds hands.
Yes.
When originally I was going to do the Jewel Knights, one of their grade 3s is a restander. So you would do this over it, and then like, all right, I'm a restanding Vanguard with multi-attacking Jewel Knights with, 3 or more cards from hand. It's pretty wacky. And the reason this thing is so expensive is because he kind of deserves it. I do think, I know they're getting, reprints are coming this summer. I'm hoping this is one of them.
I really do as well. So that way more people can join us in the Royal Paladin gang. Yeah,
Chain Rancor for Shadow Paladin is kind of the same effect, except it's grade 1s, if you saw the episode. If you can't afford multiple copies of this, you can get along with just one. I think you'll be okay. Usually the game ends with that.
Usually.
Usually.
But if you only get your hands on one, just time it right. Because if your opponent has too big of a hand, you can go into this and try to shred their hand, but you better hope that you shredded it enough.
Yeah. Well, because at the least, if you have stuff on Force 2, if it's just 3 attacks, that's at least 9 cards out of hand.
Yep, that's right. So. Oh, Crystal Luster. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Another stride I run in here is the Progenitor. So this one you cannot flip from your stride's abilities. Like when they say flip over a G unit, you can't flip this. However, if he's face up in the G zone, you don't have to pay cost to stride anymore. So you can just ride your 3 and say, oh, I get my marker, now I stride.
Yeah.
Which, in these Progenitors, I've been seeing a lot more value in overdress-based decks. Like right now, I'm currently testing Maelstrom, I'm currently testing Graham Grace. If I can go into the Progenitor, I can just now Persona Ride and then just free stride afterwards, which is huge value. As for his own effects, I hardly ever use it. I don't know if you've ever used it, Atlas. The Counterblast Soul Blast to call as many, then draw 3.
And yeah, so you have to keep going until your hand's empty. I've used it when I'm behind, right?
Yeah,
I have 2 cards, call 2, draw 3. That's nice. I like the only. Okay, so for those who saw the Premium Eugene list on our channel, I go into Gilgal a lot because one of my friends plays Genesis, and then he has the frickin' Regalia thing that's like, things cannot be moved.
Yes.
And you're like, all right, I'm going into Gilgal and I'm attacking your whole board. And he's like, all right, fine.
Yes.
And then the game continues from there. But I think the Progenitor and the Zeroth Dragon, that's the other thing. So you can't run Ultima if you run the Overtrigger.
Correct.
The Overtrigger is the cheaper option, and I don't think that Ultima is really well used in United Sanctuary unless you're Gold Paladin. That's my opinion. I think you'd much rather have the Overtrigger.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. Well, what about Angel Feather? I thought Angel Feather used Ultima as well.
You rescue check until you get the OT on the opponent's turn. I'd rather do that, or...
You know, fair enough. Fair enough.
I don't know. I gotta go back and watch the... We have the Angel Feather one with Horth, who has, like, the most smooth editing I've ever seen. But, yeah, so, you know, your mileage may vary on this. I know that the Progenitor and, you know, Zeroth Dragons are kind of expensive. Luckily, I think you dodge it. Like, if you can't get along... you don't need this. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Correct. If you pick one up from a friend, cool. Otherwise, you really don't need it. Especially in All-Out, you don't need it.
Trying to kill them, you don't need the game to go that long.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Speaking of killing them, this is definitely another stride that'll do it. Divine Knight of Twin Absolute, Saint of Twin. God, what a name. So when he attacks while boosted, as I was saying earlier with the Bellinus crit, you can do it. You counterblast 1, you flip any G unit face up, which, I'll just say this for Royals real quick. Thank goodness a lot of our strides just flip whatever we want. We don't have to flip copies for most of our stuff that we use. Unlike decks like Vanquisher, where a lot of the strides, especially the Vanquisher strides, like flip a copy. Flip a copy. Ugh. But yeah, I digress.
This is really funny to use like really late in the game where you're like, everything called off of an effect gets plus 25k. Yep. Good luck, man.
So true. So yeah, he searches for 2 grade 2s from deck, calls in the rear and shuffle. And then as Atlas was mentioning, his other effect, when a rear guard is placed from the deck, so it doesn't have to be through him. Like, you could be multi-attacking with your other grade 2s. Those called out units get 5k for every card in the G zone. So he'll call out 2, give them a big power boost, and then you start swinging with your other 2s. They'll summon another 2. That new 2 also gets the power boost. So he's really good late game. I totally agree.
Yeah. Yeah, especially in the versions of the deck where you're calling like just back and forth and back and forth. That effect is passive. You don't need to pay any cost for it. The only effect that he does is call 2 things himself.
Yep.
So, like, usually what happens in a lot of alt-model decks is you're swinging with your rear guards first, and then your last one is called by your Vanguard, Gobblade, whatever.
Yeah.
So they're getting this boost even before the Vanguard swings, and that's awesome.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's why I run him as a 2-of. He's definitely after you've crystal lustered him maybe 2 times, if they're still alive somehow, just going to him. It's usually insta game.
Yeah.
And then this is Atlas's favorite stride.
All right, so Immortal Holy Sword Fides is a Brave stride, and for those who don't know, Brave is a keyword where you have to have 3 or less cards in hand. This is for if like you're grinding each other down. Someone has to die, right? You can during your main phase counterblast, flip something face up, and then he gets red text when your unit with Brave is attacking. If your opponent only has 1 Guardian, the attack will hit regardless of power. So this is like a proto Battledore skill. Before they released Battledore Fighter, where if you G-Guard or PG, and it's the only Guardian, it's still going to hit. If you're underpowered and they only have 1 Guardian, it's still going to hit.
Does this go around PGs? Because doesn't the PG effect just nullify the attack?
Yes, because you have to put it down, and it counts the Guardians before they do the effect.
Oh.
Yeah.
I learned a thing today, guys.
So this is pretty wacky. The more important thing is the GB4 effect, which means if you do his first effect on second stride, you're getting it, right? Because that's 3 cards in G-Zone plus him.
That's right.
When he's in Brave and he attacks, you can call 3 things from deck. No, doesn't matter what they are, grade 1s, 2s, whatever. So you get 2 things in the front and a booster, most likely.
Yep. And usually what you like to call out with him is like your multi-attackers, say Twin Sword or Soliman in this deck list. I know in Atlas's list, he also runs like Albion as well. Just units that can just keep pushing in and poking.
Yeah. Which I do have to thank you guys for that. You guys sent me this. So.
Well, I'm glad it reached you, man, because I was like, man, I hope he gets it.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely a 1-of, at least in this version that I've made, a 1-of. If you have a more Brave ability focused deck, definitely like 2-3 copies of him.
Yeah,
and he's fairly cheap too. If I remember looking it up right.
Yeah, a lot of the Brave cards are pretty cheap because like it's a terrible keyword. It was such a bad idea. I know if you play like G format, so like. Yep. Go up to the end of G era. Brave is weirdly good.
Yes.
In G format. So
yes.
Yeah. If you wanna try out G format, good deck that you can run cheaply. I wish that the Gobblade effect worked on any alt mile because I'd be using higher D&D alt mile and like more Brave stuff.
Man, for sure. But no, Bushiroad thought about it. They said no, just the OG one.
Yeah.
Darn it, Bushy.
All right, so now we go into the GB8.
We have one last stride, and I put him in here in the event games go really long, which they sometimes do, even with Crystal Luster. You can go into this guy. So he says at GB8, so you have to have 7 face up at least in the G zone plus him. When he attacks, you counterblast 1. You search your deck for up to 5 cards, call him the separate rear. Excuse me. Each one of those cards gets 4K, and then he himself gets a crit. So you're pretty much summoning the last amount of normal units in your deck. Thinning out your deck 5 cards, which is now you're going to have a deck mostly of triggers. And he swings with a crit. I think it's just a really nice, oh man, we've got this far type of card. That's why I put him in here.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of decks like try and aim for the GB8. It just kind of happens if it happens.
Yeah, exactly. That's really what he's in here for. Man, we got this far. I guess we'll go into it.
Yeah.
But now,
so lastly, we have the G guards, which Royal Paladin has terrible G guards.
I mean, at least Altmile and Blasters have decent ones. Everyone else, I'm sorry.
Blasters has the best of the clan, I think, but they're
totally not biased.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a big Blaster fan myself, so I'm loving it. But yeah, I'll start out with her. She was the newest G Guard we got, and she has her moments. She says when she's put in the Guardian Circle. So in case, for people who don't know, in order to summon a G-Guard on your opponent's turn, you discard a heal trigger from hand to summon these from your G-Zone. So once they're done guarding for that battle, they go back to the G-Zone face up. So to increase your GB count, definitely G-Guarding is a way to do it. Mm-hmm. And for her specifically, she says when she's put in the Guardian Circle, you choose a grade 2 unit. It gets 10k shield to the end of the turn. And the red text, when this unit intercepts, countered by Soul Blast, becomes a perfect guard.
Yeah.
My question to Bushiroad is, A, why does it have to intercept? And B, why do we have to pay a counter by Soul Blast?
I think if they were going to make this better, what it should have done is given herself 10k. And then given the unit the thing. That would have been cooler.
Oh, that's so cool.
As it is now, what I usually end up doing with it is like someone's, the smaller swings are usually at the beginning of the battle phase. Mm-hmm. So they're hitting for like 26 or whatever. You go, all right, I'm going to G-Guard into this. I'll give this to, Laylee. And then your Vanguard swings and you go, okay, intercept with Laylee, do the thing. Yeah, and then sometimes that can even turn on Alt Miles' passive effect, and then your grade 2s have bigger shield.
Yeah.
So then on the next swing, you can guard with grade 2s from hand or intercept with the other one, and it has 10k shield.
Yeah, that is true.
So not the worst thing in the world, but definitely could have been better.
Definitely so.
Yeah.
So then the next one is Masco right here. So he's a G-Guard that requires you to be a GB1 already. But he says that when he's placed in the Guardian Circle, you can flip another G-Guard face up. And he gets 10k shield if you have a front row unit. So he doesn't care what the grade has to be in the front, as long as there is a front row unit. Definitely a very good card to go into if you're trying to go for higher GB counts, especially for strides like the Twin Sword stride. Mm-hmm. So that's why I run him in here. And free is nice. We take free effects.
Yeah, I just hate that it's... Just give him 15k. Why couldn't it be 15k?
I agree.
Yeah, it should have been that from the beginning. Oh, well. Yeah.
Yeah. And then this G-Guard I've actually been liking a lot, especially if it's a more grade 2 focused alt-mile deck. Like if you take your V deck and just put slaps and strides or G-Guards into it, this is definitely a good G-Guard for it. Because he says that continuous, if you have 2 or more grade 2 units, he gets 10k shield. So it's another free G-Guard. And like I said, in the V version, if it's just straight from V to premium, because you'll have grade 2s in the back row, you'll guarantee get his effect off.
Yeah, that's a little easier to pull off than even Maskall. Like, usually your opponent will either start swinging at rear guards because they know.
Yep.
Or they, like when, like Narukami or whatever, they'll blow up your front row. So.
Yeah. So, but he's still pretty good to have. Because, again, free is free. We take those.
Yeah, that is nice. Like, a lot of... I forgot which clan it is, but it's like, your auto effects don't work. That's a continuous effect, which means they can get around stuff.
Yeah, I believe that was the second form of Ichikishima.
That's right. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So not a thing anymore, but...
Yeah, I hope she never comes back.
Yeah.
And then, the best G-Guard, I feel, for Alt-Mile. E-Grain. I have her in SP. So beautiful.
Hot. Okay.
So she has 2 effects. So the first one, continuous, brave. So if your hand is 3 or less, she gets a 5k shield. So that makes her 20, just like that. And then her other one is when she's placed on Guardian Circle, you can Soul Blast 1, and she gets an extra 10k shield. But you have to be on Alt-Mile to be able to do it. But this is an Alt-Mile deck, so that condition's never a problem.
Yeah.
So she can easily be, especially in G era, she can easily be a 30k shield by herself, and that was such a big thing. I remember back in G era, I would go into her, and she would single-handedly stop a lot of attacks.
Yeah, I think this is probably the best thing Alt-Mile has right now, and that's okay. I just I wish there was more, but you know.
Yeah. And then I just wanted to add real quick, if you wanted to run more copies than just 2, a recommendation is you can definitely take him out, especially if you feel you need more shield value in your G zone.
Yeah, because remember, you can recycle heal guards with Diarone. So with
this boy right here.
Yeah. So that's something to consider. Now, for people who enjoyed this, please leave a like and leave a comment. Let us know what clans you want to do next. If there's a whole playlist of the ones we've already done, so don't be like, I want to see New Batama. Already been done. But yeah, let us know what you want to see next. You can find Team Haam at their channel. I'll leave a link in the description. Is there any other pluggable you wanted to plug?
You can find me on Twitter. I think you just look up my name, James Suniga. You should be able to find me. I don't have a specific link on Twitter yet. So.
Okay. But yeah, thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, guys.